Every third person is not sleeping enough based on multiple scientific studies. If you include oversleeping too, it means that 50% of people do not sleep well, and one of them could be you. So, how much sleep should you really get? The answer is 7-8 hours no matter your age or gender. That's it. You can close the video and maybe go to sleep. As should I, it's pretty late here. But, and of course there's a but, if you continue, I'll tell you about tons of interesting scientific research. What's better, to sleep too much or too little? How sleeping affects your logic and talking? How does Japan lose more than $100 billion every year because of bad sleep? How to get back in shape if you slept wrong for weeks and weeks, and a lot of other stuff. Also, I'll add a couple of opinions from sleep experts and scientists to make my statement sound more convincing. And, as a bonus, I'll mention the exact amount of required sleep in minutes based on 10,000 people study. So, let's start. Hi, my name is Alex, and it's late night outside. So, the most obvious, most important, and yet the most ignored part of good sleep is sleeping for 7-8 hours. It makes sense for every human being, no matter how old you are, where you live, and so on. I'll confirm each statement with at least one scientific research, so you don't need to trust me blindly on that. But, for God's sake, people are terrible at sleeping. Just one more hour of Reddit, one more Netflix episode, one more dungeon, and so on and so forth. Firstly, I expected this whole sleep topic was obvious enough, so why bother talking about it? But there is an interesting survey from US National Health Center in Atlanta. They asked 250,000 people, and more than 30% of respondents slept less than 6 hours per day, regularly. And it was mind-blowing for me. Every third person doesn't sleep enough. People seem to believe that 5 or 6 hours are fine. Some would think even 4 hours are alright. And it could be okay for a single day, or maybe for a couple of days, but then it will catch you up and cripple your productivity completely. And it's a big deal, even for society in general. For example, because sleepy people show worse results at work and get sick more often, Canada alone loses more than $20 billion yearly. Japan and the US lose even more, and we'll get to it just in a minute. On the opposite side, one of the reasons for insufficient sleep is overworking. I can confirm it as a software developer. Working late to finish some really important stuff will surely convert into bad sleep and hurt your productivity the next day or two. So, the more you work, the worse you work. I even have a video about how to be smarter by doing nothing. Check it in the corner. For now, let's focus on you, because there's so much more. Let's try to understand how bad sleep could affect you. For example, sleeping too much makes you as dumb as not sleeping enough. Sometimes even dumber. Just a couple of years ago, scientists from Western University in Canada finished the largest sleep study ever to check how sleep affects your brain. And it shows that only half of the people sleep optimal 7-8 hours per day, while the second half shows significantly worse cognitive results. And yeah, you still could be one of them. The researchers picked thousands of people from all the different countries, professions, ages, and asked them to take a broad range of mental tests. The task was to measure their cognitive proficiency, attention, and memory. All the participants provided detailed information about their sleep during the last months, so the scientists could combine it with test results and do some conclusions. All 12 tests were separated into 3 groups. 4 memory tests to measure how participants remember things in the short term, 4 verbal tests to measure how people can vocalize thoughts, and 4 reasoning tests to measure logic and concentration. Memory tests were pretty straightforward, so if you pick people who slept 7-8 hours and take their results as 100%, then undersleeping people showed 90% and oversleeping people showed 95%. Not that bad, right? But with more brain-intensive tests, like verbal ones, where people needed to talk, the results were much more clear. Again, if 7-8 hours means 100%, Undersleeping people got only 70% and oversleeping people got the same result. So the difference is huge. I'm sure you noticed it yourself. It could be tough to vocalize your thoughts correctly if you didn't sleep enough. And the next part of the tests, to measure logic and concentration, went even worse. 100% for 7-8 hours group, 70% for undersleeping people, and 60% for oversleeping people. So, if you sleep enough, you're almost twice as good as people with bad sleeping habits. Seems a solid reward. So, based on the results, let's try to make a list. First, based on the research, the optimal average amount of sleep is between 7 hours 10 minutes and 7 hours 26 minutes. Second, it works almost the same way no matter what age you are. If you believe that you can sleep fewer hours because you are old enough or young enough, it won't work. Third, bad sleep affects complex tasks in the first place. So you could feel alright until you need to make your brain work, and it won't. The good news is that even if you had weeks of bad sleep, only one night of healthy sleep could significantly improve your results. And should you add at least a couple of days more, you'll get back to normal much faster than you could expect. Pin me in the comments how long you sleep on average. We could do our own little survey. And if you have any tips or life stories on how to start sleeping normally, even better. I'm curious and maybe even include it in the next video. But, getting back to the topic, there is also the bad news. Not just for you, but society in general. Modern people are terrible at sleeping and it hurt our world. For example, based on the 3 years data from North Carolina University, bad sleep caused more than 4,000 car accidents in North Carolina state only. Thousands of people, especially young ones in their 20s, just fell asleep at the wheel. We don't count any intoxication cases here, all of these people were clean, they just didn't sleep well enough. Also, a large portion of these crashes was not during the night, but the mid-afternoon, in bright light. So again, if you believe that you are young enough to sleep fewer hours and nothing will happen, there's a clear confirmation of what could happen, so take care. Bad sleep also affects our educational system. As provided by Rhode Island Hospital, it affects kids that visit elementary schools and makes their grades much worse. Adding one more research provided by the University of Texas at Houston, it affects teenagers too, so they're much more tired and in a bad mood, affecting their high education chances. And so on and so forth, you got the idea. So, if you combine everything, the picture is pretty clear. People who don't sleep well are more tired, so they work slower and provide not optimal results. Also, they get sick more often, so they skip more working days. And because kids and teenagers are affected by it too, the cycle never ends. So, the researchers from RAND Corporation built a model of how all of it affects industrial countries' economies. They tested multiple different scenarios, but the simplest one was, what if people who sleep for 6 hours would start sleeping 7 or 8 hours instead? The researchers didn't even count people who sleep less than 6 hours because including them made the results, let's say, too optimistic. What do you think? What difference 1-2 hours of sleep could make? How much money do countries lose every year because of bad sleep? For Canada, it's $20 billion. Quite a lot, right? But let's get further. The next one, the United Kingdom, loses more than $40 billion yearly, which is twice as much, but there's more. If German people were more concerned about sleep, Germany would earn almost $55 billion more every year. And when getting to Japan, it's twice that. Japan loses $125 billion yearly, which already sounds like science fiction, right? But there's one more country, and most of us know which country it is. The United States, based on this research, loses almost $400 billion every year because every second US citizen is so bad at sleeping. Just wow. Surely, the research can't get all the numbers right. It's just a model trying to predict the future. And it also, for example, doesn't include China. But from my personal perspective and work experience of the last 15 years, the magnitude of numbers looks alright. And it's both scary and exciting in the same time. The whole sleeping topic is pretty interesting, and there are tons of research to check. For example, how to sleep better. So I will make at least one more video to cover it with tons of scientific proof. Make sure to subscribe not to miss it. Maybe it's already in the top corner, or maybe not. And yep, that's all for this episode, time for me to sleep. Feel free to like this video or subscribe, it makes a difference. If you want more, check the channel or the recommended ones. And if you have questions or something to say, let me know in the comments. Have a good night.